Bay Area Discs 2016 Youth Ultimate Coaching Conference.
So Tom here at the very end, who is the CEO of USAU, is a grandfather and about to be a grandfather for the second time in a couple weeks, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right? So he said very sweetly that when he gets up every morning, he thinks about his grandchildren, which is awfully sweet. And Leslie is here from Triangle Ultimate, and she is into scuba diving and rock climbing and East Coast, but not West Coast swing dancing.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. And Jen is, I forgot your affiliation. I'm sorry, Jen. You are from Aero Ultimate, among other things.
Yeah.
Lots of other things. She lives in Point Reyes, and she is applying to paramedics schools. So in her non-ultimate life. And then we have Jude, who is here from Disc Northwest. And he is a big Detroit Tigers fan. They're not an ultimate team.
Baseball's still a sport.
Jeff is the coach of the Happy Cows for Bay Area Disc, the Bay Area team here. And he said that when he was 6 or 7, was left alone by his parents. They forgot him at a Warriors game. Yep. Yeah, so he's here to tell the tale, and he has not been turned. That does, right? It explains a lot. He was not turned off permanently by sports by that experience. And this is Nicole, who coaches the U16 girls team. And she is an identical twin. I'm a mom of twins, so we kind of connected over that, even though her sister doesn't play ultimate, which is just so I don't understand that. We'll have to spend a whole other session. Not so identical, right?
She tried it once.
Okay. And she's also a scuba diver, so you all can connect over that. Helen is a player on the El Cerrito team, and last year she qualified and ran in the state championships in cross country, right? And Julie Barr here is an old friend and teammate of mine, and she is a mom of 2 lovely boys and a co-founder of the team at El Cerrito High, and is starting the team in middle school there as well. And she is getting a new puppy today, right?
Not to keep.
Wait, what?
We'll talk later. Valerio is the youth director of Bay Area Disc and puts together all sorts of great events like this one, bringing the community together. His better half up there had a great art show recently. She's a great artist, and I don't know if you know this, but Valeria's actually Italian. Did you guys know that? Yeah. So he's not from this country, but if you haven't had him make you pasta, make sure you somehow kind of work that in, because he can just whip up a mean dish of pasta with whatever you have in your pantry.
Depending on the election, I might go back. So.
Depending on the election. So I'm going to ask a few questions of this panel, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers from all of you as well, and that'll wrap up our day. So the first question that I wanted to ask everybody, and I guess maybe we'll just kind of go down or popcorn style, is if you all think that there's a certain age that players or coaches or parents for that matter should focus on single gender versus mixed. What are the pros and cons of both of those for players in Ultimate? Tom, do you have any ideas on that?
I do, but I think I'll just focus on the single gender girls. I would love to see us go younger, because there's a ton of research that says if you can get to girls when they're younger, there's a much greater chance that it becomes part of their life and part of who they are, and they'll stick with it for a longer period of time. The later we wait, the less good our chances are of really having it take hold. So I'd love to see us keep pushing down to really young girls.
Like how old?
Elementary. And we're working right now on even a preschool curriculum with the Jewish community centers, which would be very different. It's really all about play and just having fun. But even, we develop our fundamental movement skills when we're in preschool. It's when we're most sensitive to actually developing all of our movement and motor skills. And so to have ultimate curriculum designed for preschool age would be, I think, really cool.
Yeah. Leslie, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so in the Triangle in North Carolina, we are
going the direction of single gender. And right now it's really, the focus is starting on the middle school level as well as the high school level. This past winter we had a several week-long girls clinics on the weekend, and we would bring in club and college players to lead these sessions for the middle school girls. And at the end of the season we had a mini tournament, and I talked to all the parents afterwards and they were like, this is incredible, my girl has loved coming out here and working with the high schoolers and the college players and the club players. And that just goes to show that, again, the younger we can start it, as Tom was saying, the more likely we are to keep them within the sport.
Yeah, I was looking and trying to find research more of the big picture aspect of girls playing in sports versus boys playing in sports. So I dove right into the developmental aspects of kids. And there was a really interesting study by the Indiana University that looked at 1.9 million swimmers from 2005 to 2010 and looking at the results of all these very competitive swimmers. And they realized that based off of age groups, girls and boys essentially compete at the same level up until puberty. So when I was thinking about that, and then also trying to think about cognitively how boys develop and how girls develop, and there's numerous studies that say that girls, around preschool time are a little bit better with their fine motor skills, with sort of self-help skill set than boys are. I think the answer is, for right now, for Ultimate, we need to just find programs that best fit the individual, regardless of whether it's mixed or single gender. So if someone fits better in one, that's great. If someone fits better in another, that's great too. But recognizing that in the broad spectrum, there will be differentiations between boys and girls right around 13 to 16.
What are your thoughts on ages to focus on mixed versus single sex?
That's a tough one because our fastest growing leagues are our elementary school leagues, which are all co-ed. In fact, our fastest growing season is our co-ed season, and that's the spring, so we're heading into it right now. And elementary and middle school are still growing very quickly in the mixed scene. That being said, we are looking for ways to offer more single gender experiences for our girls. So our summer camps, starting from 8-year-olds up, are all single gender. We have single gender opportunities for middle school and high school in the winter, and looking at single gender opportunities for a summer league. What we don't want to lose is the way that right now our co-ed leagues are building participation for girls. Basically, you can't add another team if you don't recruit more girl players. So when I look at schools that have 4 or 5 teams, I know that they've had to make an effort to engage girls as players. When we get to the idea of developing those girls as players to the best of their ability and retaining them for the long term, then I think we start looking at making sure we're offering them single gender opportunities. So, but I would love to. My daughter, she's 9 now. She loves the single gender stuff at camp. She also loves her co-ed experience in elementary school. So being able to offer her both of those experiences, I think, is what right now we're striving to do as an
And the focus that you're putting on developing the more single gender camps and leagues for the kids, is that based on parental or player demand and interest? Is that based on your own research or intuition?
It's a combination of, it's a kind of a slurry of all of those things. It's funny that the resistance that we quite often get at the younger ages to single gender is sometimes it's the girls. You say, we're going to separate the girls over here, and I just did this at a middle school tournament, or a middle school clinic we did, and they were like, this is sexist. And I was like, well, just give me a chance. See what you think here. And by the end of it, the same girl who complained about it was like, that was awesome. That was the best experience I've had playing Ultimate yet, because I knew that I was going to get thrown to. So some of it is breaking down some of those boundaries and expectations that they think they have from previous playing.
Do you think that she thought that it was going to be separate but not equal?
I think that was her concern, yeah.
Right. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I've found in Turlock, in our little small growing community, where we started at 10 and now we're around 40 to 50 kids, we have found that the kids we offer multiple opportunities. So in the same practice, you could play single gender and you could also play co-ed. I kind of want to expose, it's a personal thing, I just want to expose them to both sides of the sport. I feel like both are rising in attendance and kind of necessity. I think that with the Olympics and other international ultimate going mixed, it's an aspect that the kids are new to, but for the most part, they're really open to and they're willing to try it. And so before I came to this, I kind of gave them a few questions and asked them their opinion on it. And I would say that actually a majority of the boys preferred to play co-ed. They actually came out and they were allowed to give their opinion, whatever I wanted the truth, and a majority of them actually liked playing co-ed. They liked playing with girls. Some of them are their friends, some of their sisters, and there's not many sports where they can play on the same team with their sister.
So it was more of the social aspect of it, community aspect?
Social aspect, and one girl said that she believed that she had to work twice as hard to get the same place on the team, which I feel like a lot of women probably feel that in the workplace and just in life. So I kind of understood that, but sorry, what was the question again?
So it's interesting that the boys that you asked said that they preferred to play mixed as opposed to single sexed.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what some of the reasons for that could have been. Was it social? Was it?
No,
competition?
so one of the high schoolers, we combine the high schoolers and the middle schoolers together. They they practice together, and then yet again we separate them so they get all different types of angles of the sport. And actually, a lot of the high schoolers really enjoyed playing with the girls because they felt like they tried the hardest. And in fact, a lot of the girls come up to me and ask me what's the thing that they can work on the most. And I mean, anyone can say throwing, but I usually tell them that I just want you to continue to be the field general that you are. So usually, actually, our girls are the ones that are get in the stack, stand here, and it's like yes, because all the boys are they're really humble and they're actually great kids, but they don't want to take charge. And actually, most of our girls are the ones that are the leaders. They're the ones that get things going, get the game started, and the play started themselves too.
Mm-hmm. Those of us that are married are nodding and saying, "Yep." Nicole.
I love this question, first of all. I've had the privilege, I originally started coaching in Seattle and moved to the Bay, so I've had the opportunity to see 10, 11-year-old girls and 8, 9-year-old girls play single gender, and middle schoolers and high schoolers and college and club through the whole thing. And I would say, along the same lines, there's a lot of recruitment value in playing co-ed. Girls touch the disc more in single gender. So I think at every age, there is a lot of value in that. And some of it maybe is just the way that we think about how we're allowing for positions. One of the stats that came up out of this conference is that half of the women playing Ultimate right now are playing mixed, mm-hmm. and half of the women are playing single gender. And I love mixed. I think it's wonderful. Women do not touch the disc as much. If you look at the stats, in women's ultimates, 100% of the assists and 100% of the scores are coming from women to women. Because
wait a minute.
That's it.
Yeah. Sit with it. In mixed, that's not the same. And I led the first 10-11 girls split at summer camps last year, and it came from the girls. And the reason why is they said, I want to touch the disc, I want to throw the score, I want to catch the score. I know I'm a good player, I know I can play with the boys, and I want to touch the disc. And so I think that's something that we saw at the 8, 9-year-old level all the way through. And for the middle schoolers and the high schoolers, this idea of looking at it from a coaching standpoint. One of the things that I see is having really powerful coaches and coaches with a lot of knowledge and skill at the girls' levels as well, and really focusing on who is coaching that. And it doesn't have to be a club player. It could be a coach who has a lot of experience and who's interested and who's building the team. And for the girls at the middle school and high school level, knowing that the quality of coaching that they're going to get and the level of experience that they're going to get has a lot of depth, I found the girls responded to just as much as whether or not the experience was with on the field with boys or not. It was about the quality of their experience. The other thing that I would love to say and to think about as coaches is I say single gender because I started playing open ultimate. And I think that's something that our community has to offer that very few other sports do, is that girls are really invited to play at every level with the boys. And I think there is a lot of value in that as well, is that if you only have 2 girls, fine, play single gender. And I think, along with what Jen said, before the age of 13, it shouldn't be about gender. So it shouldn't be, if you're a girl and you're 8 on that field, find another girl to match up with, because they will, I've seen it time and time again, they will play so hard on each other and they won't touch the disc because they'll cancel each other out. And then all of a sudden, and I just read an article one of my U16 players wrote, where she said, we do that and all of a sudden it's about me versus her, versus about us as a team versus them as a team. So I think my biggest thing is that if you're going to play and you have small numbers and you're not playing single gender below the age of 13, it should be single gender. Don't have your girls match up with other girls. Have your players match up with other players who are of an equal skill. Gender doesn't matter.
I interrupt you, but there is a confusion sometimes, because when we talk about matching gender, it's because there are fewer girls. That doesn't mean that they need to mark each other. You know what I mean? We need to encourage, if there are 2 girls in that team and I have girls, I should put at least 2 girls. That doesn't mean they need to cover each other. But at least give some of my girl on the field. So I think sometimes there is that misunderstanding of matching gender. That doesn't mean matching player.
And I'll get to the 3 of you about this question around age, but I'm wondering, it's come up a couple of times in this panel as well as in other discussions here around girls not touching the disc as much when they're playing mixed. And I'm wondering, coaches particularly, if you have strategy, like, do the boys know that? Are they made aware of that? Are they given any tools, or how do you deal with that?
I'd love to answer that question when it gets over here to me.
You can get to that too.
I think it would also be great to hear from Helen, who's a high school player, about whether that happens in your experience at all.
Well, I don't have that much experience with ultimate as a high school. I've only played in high school on a mixed team. I would say that, I might see the not getting the disc if you're a female as much on a lot of other teams. It isn't necessarily limited to girls. I think it would be limited to the least experienced players on the team. Mm-hmm. So in a lot of cases that would be girls, but we have a lot of inexperienced boys who also don't get the Frisbee. So while the majority might be girls, because if you're playing on a mixed team or on an open team with a few girls, it will be oftentimes the girls with the least experience, with the least disc skills. So you'll see it with them. It's probably also with the boys. So I would definitely say that if you're not as experienced and your team knows it, you're probably not getting the disc, and that's probably it's a choice people make. It's not an insult. It's just saying, well, I don't really want to throw it to you. So, but come on,
And that's not unique to youth either.
Yeah.
I'm thinking wait a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
I think as a coach, we can provide the team with a culture and say, this is our expectation of every single person on the field, and in that point should be touching the disc, and it doesn't matter what gender they are. I do think that there are people that won't throw it, like Helen said, to people who aren't as experienced, and sometimes that's the girls. I think it happens in single gender as well. So that's what my answer as a coach to your last question.
Any other coaches want to talk about that question of boys not throwing as much to girls, or maybe just not to the more experienced players?
Yeah, I would say that at our program, we reinforce the fact that we want them to throw to the open player. So we don't necessarily say like, hey, throw to the girl. It's throw to the open player. The person's wide open. Why aren't? And so when I'm getting positively, aggressively talking to the player, it's never about like giving them the thought like, man, you're sexist for not throwing to the girl. It's like that person is wide open. Why are you not throwing to that person? I think when you break it down to like that, I think people kind of see each other as equals after that, and they can realize that maybe they do have a bias, but I'm not going to let them know that I know about it. I think that it has us to do as coaches, just kind of reinforcing the people versus guys and girls.
And I think that my son's middle school team, he just had a great coach that created situations where there was no emphasis on what was happening, but there was a lot of situations where it would be maybe one boy who had great disc skills but didn't necessarily throw to the girls. He would be on a scrimmage team with 4 other girls. It would just be him. And he was like, well, I guess I got to do this, right? Or, and so she would really mix up and create these situations, and it was very subtle, but it broke down some of those barriers without there being a lesson plan necessarily. And I really appreciated that about what she was doing, and she was creating these kind of these learning opportunities that wasn't very heavy-handed. The kids picked up on it, they figured it out, and by the end of it, there was little things where at their award ceremony, Isaiah, my son, got the award for being the most willing to throw to the open person. And to me, that was great. That just meant he threw to whoever was open. It wasn't always a great throw, but the intention was there, right? So it meant that he was picking up on that stuff, that you throw to the open person.
Yeah, it's really, it's interesting. I've only coached girls all the way from youth to club, but I'm a bit of a loudmouth, and so when I've played mixed and I've noticed a trend of boys not throwing to, or men not throwing to women on a club mixed team, I will immediately go up to that man and ask him, what did you see on that field? And a lot of times the men's perception of how you play this sport is, I want to be the person who scores, and I want to be the person who is the successful person on the field, whereas women take it as, I want to be able to be a part of the team that solves a puzzle, right? We're all in this together, we're all solving it together. So I think part of it is people not asking each other why. Why did this happen? Why is this happening? And we need to have a dialogue between it. So a big part of that to me is giving people the opportunity to have the voice to share that and to communicate with each other to find those solutions, so that mixed is less about boys with some girls and more about just players playing this very unique part of ultimate.
So Helen, you were on a cross country team, right? And were you playing? So that's mixed. Obviously, it's not the same kind of like field sport, team sport in the same way as ultimate is. But I'm wondering about your pre-ultimate experience on a team. Were they always single genders teams?
Well, so I've played on soccer teams. I still do highly competitive soccer teams since like 2nd grade, and it's single gender because it's just not mixed soccer. I would say, my experience has been positive. It's like a really competitive team. Everyone is a team together, but there is this sense of, we're here to win, and you better be here to win too. Which works for me. Like, I love it. Like, I'm here to win. Like, I'm not here to play a game to lose. Like, let's get this straight. Like, I don't lose happily. So, and this team doesn't either. It didn't really affect me that it was single gender. Like, our goal was to win. And then, so like the cross country team, it's kind of mixed. You race against females. You don't race against boys. But you practice with like the boys team, and you you train with them. So, and I mean, you don't notice anything different. It's still competitive. You're all there to improve yourself. Some people are faster than other people, but you're all there for the same purpose, and so that was also a very positive experience. And then coming to Ultimate was slightly different. First off, not everyone there is to win, so that was weird. Like, why would you, I mean, for me, why would you play a game to not win? I'm not judging, but like, it's mind-boggling. But it was, I wouldn't say it wasn't negative. It's still fun. I still play it, so like I'm not chased off from it. But but you have boys on our team who are very competitive and want to win, and you have girls who've been taught that, you know, winning isn't everything. And so it's weird because you talk to them privately like, yeah, like I'm so down for winning, but they're not willing to like say that or be like, no, I'm here to win. So it's like this weird like conditioning that you're on this mixed team and half the team wants to win, half the team wants to win, but like they're okay with losing for some reason. So like my experience with that has been a little strange, but I don't know, it's just that
You said earlier, I'm going to prompt you a little bit
Okay.
here. You said earlier something about one of the reasons you come to Ultimate is because it's the only opportunity in high school you have to play a mixed gender sport, right?
Yeah.
Helen is one of the most vocal girls on our team about how she does not want to play single gender because she loves matching up against guys who are better than her because she always wants a challenge. So it's been an interesting piece to explore whether we would ever play. Val's asked us several times, we have enough girls on the El Cerrito team to put together a small single gender team. And consistently our girls have been like, nope, we like playing mixed gender. And I think our boys feel the same way, kind of like Jeff's guys, that they really love playing together and they love the novelty that Ultimate has, that you can play together because every shape and size actually can be on the field and play a really big factor. So I don't know if you're getting this, but I'm a big proponent of mixed gender.
So that's the high school players, and you're
High school
starting
players.
the middle. I'm just wondering about going back to the original question around
Yeah.
age. Have you posed the same question to your, the middle school team players, and how do they
The
feel?
middle school team players, we haven't posed that because we don't have enough girls at this point to have a single gender. What I noticed, however, about the team, and I think this is a culture that we have kind of branded at El Cerrito, is we have both gender coaches, we have both gender captains, and we try to keep an equal mix. The middle schoolers, they get on the field, they're completely mixed up. They don't match genders like you were talking about earlier. The girls cover the guys and the guys cover the girls, and they base it on ability and height more than anything else. And in middle school, they're all over the place anyway, right? Half the girls are taller than the guys, and so they just match up with someone they think they can cover, and that it works really well.
Mhm.
So I don't even think they think that way. It's just a sport that they play together. And they love playing with each other. They love being together as a social group.
I
Yeah.
think one point here is there are models that tell us about age and gender, but there are not many sports that play co-ed.
Mm-hmm.
So we are special in somehow. And the other thing we need to be flexible because the number are not supporting everything right now. And what that program, El Cerrito, show that there is a big investment from the coaches to bring down that culture about playing correctly code. So I think play single gender is easier for a coach perspective. It's just easier.
Why?
Because you really need to work with different gender, different culture, different attitude, and it's more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And the role models are different. You need to have a female role model and probably a male. I mean, for counterbalancing the gender. So in single gender, it's easier because you can have just one person coaching a group, and normally those groups interact better with each other and become easier. So if you push a person that have limited amount of time to coach a team and don't have the culture and the skill to bring co-ed on that team, might don't work so well. So that thing, one thing that I see when, in the community, when mixed team are successful, because the leadership is good, is prepared, is able to bring that culture.
Right. Well, skipping ahead to the third question and the last one that I wanted to ask, skipping the order around a little bit, it involves point that there are a limited number of resources in terms of field space and coaches and time and money and girls. What are your opinions all on how much should we as organizations and as coaches focus on developing single gender programs, and how much should we focus on mixed programs? Tom, do you want to take that?
I think we should do everything as we possibly can, and not be an either or better is this is better, that's better. I do think if we can just get younger, particularly with girls, that's going to really help us over time have more and more girls play. Volleyball does a great job with this. But I think it's not an either or thing for me. It's like we're still at a point. I was mentioning to somebody either over lunch or in a discussion that I spend most of my time by design outside of the ultimate community and not inside the ultimate community. And I think we have to remind ourselves, I know I do all the time, myself and my team and my board, that most people in the United States, believe it or not, still have no idea that there is a sport of ultimate. No idea.
Does anybody know any of those people?
And so I think right now we're at a stage where just getting as many kids as possible playing however we can is the most important thing. And that a lot of these kids will self-select kind of what they like the most if they get a lot of opportunities to play. So I think right now it's about as many opportunities as possible to play, and then kids will self-select as long as they still have all of those options to pick from, and whatever they self-select I think is great.
Triangle Ultimate, just this past year in 2015, we created a single gender girls division of our high school league and our summer leagues, and it did receive a lot of backlash from especially the high level female players who appreciated playing with the boys and being challenged by people faster than them or better than them on the field. But what we found looking at numbers is that splitting into single gender really helped the growth of Girls Ultimate. We went from, in 2014 there was a combo girls team that I know competed at Southerns, and then in 2015 suddenly we had 4 girls high school teams, and so our number over doubled, tripled, to bringing girls out. And this past year we added another team, so another 25% growth. With our summer league, we started in 2012, so over the course of 3 years we had roughly 40 girls playing. We created a girls division, U19 and U14, and suddenly we had 84 girls playing. And so I think when you're looking at high-level girls who know they already love the sport and are going to stick with it no matter what, they want to be challenged and play mixed. But if we're looking to grow the sport and to bring more girls in, I think there needs to be that opportunity for single gender. And so providing a mix of opportunities. And I also think it is important to bring those high-level girls into the girls division to show the developing players what they can aspire to.
I really wanted to drive home today that whatever you do or however you create a program, you need to do it well with high quality. So, and recognize and have this acute sense for when issues may arise. So for a good half of my ultimate career, I played in very, very small communities. And so I just had moved from Tucson, Arizona, where we did not have enough women to have a league that was that was 4-3. It was always 5-2, and slowly more women started dropping off and not wanting to play. And so just before I left, the board had decided, that's it, we're doing it 4-3, we don't care, and that's going to be the attitude. And I just recently received an email from the Tucson Community Ultimate Group that despite the backlash from certain male players about this change, the percentage of male players from last league to this league has stayed the same, and the women saw a 59% increase in numbers of participation. So sometimes we have to try new things, sometimes they will fail, but we really need to have a keen sense of people's attitudes and whether they're happy in order to make sure that we expand the sport as well as retain the people that have already started playing.
I think that gender balance thing is really critical to maintaining leagues. Like I just finished a week of coaches meetings every evening with all of our youth leagues, our co-ed leagues, and I spend more time talking about that it is 4-3. It's just 4-3. We're not gonna, if you can't decide to play 5-2 on your own, it's 4-3. And there's automatically, I get a lot of backlash, like, well, what if we don't have, like, get them, like find those girls, develop those players. And if not, then you're either gonna play down, or ideally you forfeit and you mix it up and have a fun game and everybody plays, because I guarantee the other team is gonna have plenty of girls. It just, in our, especially in our middle school league, it's inevitable. You're gonna always meet up against a team that has more girls than they know what to do with, unfortunately, because they don't have enough coaching, right? Mm-hmm. So there's opportunities there, and I think we are in a place where we just make that the rule, right? You say this is what it's going to do, and then you create those opportunities on the field, and then fill them. And I think that's really an important part of developing those new players through co-ed, through the mixed experience. That being said, we've had really massive growth in our single gender, especially in our high school, and finding opportunities. Like last year, we only had a few JV teams. So this year, we changed it. So JV is actually 5-on-5. And then all of a sudden, you had these teams that had fairly big rosters for 7-on-7, and some of that roster didn't get a lot of PT. They were able to develop a JV experience. So now we have a lot of schools that have varsity and JV, and those JV players are going out and recruiting and say, hey, you'll get to play, you'll get to touch the disc, and then those rosters are growing, and hopefully we get to grow that into 7-on-7 experience. But for now, that's really even in our public school, we went from 128 girls in our public school single gender to 240 to looks like we don't quite have the rosters in, but it looks like it's going to be about 400 girls in our public school league. And that in part because we created more single gender opportunities. And so.
I would kind of just say that giving the opportunity for these kids to make their choices. We all came from a different generation of sports, and I think that we need to kind of bend our rules and bend the rules of our sports and the guidelines to what they ultimately want. And I think from the panel we hear, it sounds like half want single gender, half want mixed. And I think that it's the best thing in the world for us to be able to be in this position where we don't have to force our kids to just do single gender. They get to choose all on their own. And it sounds like when we give them the choice, they make it. So it's I think we just need to keep supporting that.
I think, along with that, the opportunity for girls to pick which one they want to do is huge. I also think Girls Ultimate sells itself. So I was staunchly against playing Women's Ultimate actually for years. I played open and I played mixed, and I had played softball and played other girls' sports and was like, I don't want to be a part of that community. And I joined Seattle Underground and loved it and have been hooked on Women's Ultimate since. It's most of the girls I talk to, including the U16 girls, try it, love it, and want to play more. So I think creating opportunities for that to happen, I know that sometimes the first year of a girls division will be very small. And it might mean playing 5v5. It might mean playing 3v3. But the feedback that I've gotten from other players that I play with and from youth is that having that anyway, for them to hear, that's cool. There's 12 girls out here. We're going to do a girls division of this tournament is empowering. And the next year there are always more. Because for them to be validated as players, that showing up and having 12 players, having 5 players is worth the resources for us as organizations to continue to invest and open up those opportunities, sends such a powerful message. On the flip side, having those divisions canceled also sends a powerful message. And I have girls who refer to it and talk back to it and remember that one time that division was canceled, and how they felt as a player, and how they felt their importance as a female athlete was impacted by that cancellation. So I think that's huge. Yes.
Helen, your thoughts on
I think it's kind of been said already, but let them choose what they want to do. Don't make them do one or the other. Encourage them to try both. And like, remember that one huge appeal of Ultimate is that you can play co-ed at really high levels. Like, you can't do that anywhere else. So why would you eliminate that? Just seems strange to me. So
Julie?
Similarly, I believe that we want girls to play Ultimate, and however we can get them in there is awesome. And if it's playing other girls all the time, that's awesome. And if it's playing other boys all the time, I want to echo what I heard some of the parents say earlier in the conference, that I believe it really does come down to the coaches and the culture that the coaches make on the team, whether the girls are going to get as many touches as the boys, no matter, whether they're playing co-ed or not. I think it comes down to the culture of the team. So it would be lovely if we had tournaments where there were girls, single girls in this area. It would be lovely if high school states had girls. It would be lovely if high school states had mixed. I think it would be great if we can expand all the ways so more kids can play Ultimate. Yeah.
There's the challenge. I mean, we cannot expand all the way, because as an organizer, often we need to make a decision because resources are limited. So that's the challenge. This year we ran the first ever mixed division in a tournament, and was awesome. But we also canceled a girl division a few months earlier, and we couldn't make that happen. So, and we tried to do both, but it's not easy. And after the first girl program in 2014, we were able to send our first YCC girl team. That was awesome. And we grow like the same North Carolina, a triangle. We grow exponentially when we start the girl program. So it's not easy. And I think another thing to notice that, for example, Seattle has a big culture about mix. And, well, in terms of almost every youth event, like for Spring Rain, and they're co-ed, right?
Right. Yeah. Our big event is Spring Rain, and that's co-ed.
And the league are co-ed.
Yes, sort of. Yes, we have single gender opportunities too. So,
yeah, of course, but traditionally,
yeah.
you come with a big tradition of co-ed.
Yeah.
And here as a youth, we didn't have the number, but we have a big tradition of co-ed in club. And even in YCC, we decide to have girl and boys division as developmental, and have the mixed division as the top team, because like World Games, it's cool to see the top athletes compete co-ed. So I think that can be also a model that in certain area can work. In a way, you still don't have the power to organize co-ed division or team, but you send the message that the co-ed is the top. The best player play co-ed. So if you don't have the number, you can play with other solution to underline how cool is play co-ed.
And I don't think that we're the only ones to do that. I think Washington, D.C. did the same thing this past year.
It's depending on the community and the number and the coach. Another information that I recently got, basically, there are only 25% women coaches in high school. So it's difficult if you have 25% of women coaches, then bring the culture or play co-ed.
So I'm sensitive to time, but I also want to make sure that there's time for questions from the audience. Do you want me to take the microphone because you're part of the
Julia,
panel?
going to.
Oh, great. Okay. So are there any questions specifically around the issues of the values of mixed versus single gender? Mr. Jobar.
I didn't plan him, I
I
swear.
know.
Thanks for bringing the topic. It's one that's very, very close to me. Can the panel talk some to the benefits of single gender versus mixed gender for boys?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, just going back to the few conversations I've had with my kids, I feel like the boys, tolerance is not the right word. I think that they learn how to work together. And I think that I think historically we've kind of, like with single gender sports, we've kind of always been like, all right, women play softball, boys play baseball, and that's just kind of what you do. And I think that this type of arrangement gets them to interact socially beyond the ultimate realm. I think that's one of the reasons why the boys like it the most is that there's a comfortableness that maybe some of them just have like girlfriends. When I was a kid, I had 10 friends that were girls and maybe like one friend that was a guy. So this type of sport would have really impacted me in a certain way. Other than when I just played single gender every other sport. But I really would have enjoyed a sport like this where you get the opportunity to play with half of your teammates being of the opposite gender. If I could have played with my girlfriends at the time, I think that would have been a blast. I would have had a great time.
I'm going to share a little bit of a different perspective. What I found is going single gender versus mixed for boys, they love it because they're no longer limited in the number of teams we can offer. So if we have 100 boys who want to play and we have 20 girls who want to play, all of those boys can now play single gender because we can just make more teams. The other thing I found is that I coached high school boys ultimate frisbee at Northwest School in Seattle, and having a female coach also had some of that different perspective. After I left, I was the first female coach that they had in the boys program there. Last year, or maybe this year, they had 3 female JV coaches in boys ultimate. And so there are, I think, a lot of other avenues to open up that conversation and opportunities to play together. But for the boys, it meant they got more playing time.
Any other thoughts from the panel on that question, Jude?
Just sort of anecdotally, and talking to parents as we explore shifting some of our programming. I talk to parents, and what I hear over and over and over again from parents of male players is co-ed is such a great opportunity for them to learn how to get along, and they learn a very different set of values, which is fantastic. I'm not arguing against that, but what I hear from parents of girls playing is, thank you for going single gender. Thank you. Like, my girl is so much more engaged in the sport now. And there's certainly lots of girls who stand up and say, I prefer co-ed. I prefer the mixed experience. But what we learn as we introduce more opportunities to play single gender is that the boys, sometimes the parents especially of boys, miss the mixed experience, and the girls develop tremendously as players, and their confidence changes, and their whole experience with the sport changes. And so, I think maybe we're better served by finding other opportunities, like you mentioned, to expose kids to what it is to interact with girls and with women. And so if we can give them the single gender experience, have a female coach, awesome. And I think that goes a long way. Still offer the mixed experience for sure, but don't use those complaints from parents of boys to limit opportunities for girls.
But probably that bad experience are because the culture of the coaches wasn't.
Yeah, there's a cascade of events, right?
The
that lead to that
benefit from
experience.
kids, teenagers to interact with each other, I think is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Interacting in a teammate role, it's huge. And so, from an educational perspective, play co-ed at any age It's important for my part.
So I see that it's almost 5, and I know that there probably are other questions. I'm wondering if people from the panel would be willing to stay after, if people want to come directly, but I also want to be respectful of people's time if they need to leave. Is that okay if people stay after, if people have questions? If you want to leave, you can just leave, I guess, right? Do you have any formal closing that you want to do before I just want to
We
thank
can maybe
everyone.
take a picture together. Everyone can come to the panel.
Okay, but thank, if you guys can all join me in thanking the panel for their